How you handle your lawn care impacts our water and air. In 1 hour, a gas-powered mower produces the same amount of pollution as a car driven 100 miles. Gas-powered lawn equipment harms our air. And yard waste down storm drains causes flooding and water pollution. Using too much fertilizer releases harmful chemicals into our air and runs off lawns, eventually reaching our rivers and streams. Healthy lawn care habits protect your family, our community, and the environment. Healthy yards for healthy communities.
Testing. All right. It is 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Present.
Councilmember Salinas,
Here.
Councilmember Click,
Here.
Councilmember Saper,
Here.
Councilmember Bailey,
Present.
Councilmember McGrone,
Here.
Councilmember Fitzgerald is absent, and Councilmember Alvarez is absent.
Okay. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Clark. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Opposed? Very good. Moving right along to comments from the public. Please limit comments to 5 minutes, and as you approach the mic, please state your name and your address. Would anybody like to make a public comment? Oop, let me turn that. Go ahead.
Hello.
There
Hi.
it is.
I'm Molly Lothman, and I'm actually here with McLean's Market. My family owns McLean's. First of all, I just want to say we have loved being part of the community. It's been so fun over the last 9 months or so for us to be part of North Kansas City. You guys have been so welcoming and kind, and it's been really fun. I actually spoke about a year ago in regards to asking for 15-minute parking spots for the public parking in front of our store. And you guys granted that, and we really appreciate that. It's been amazing. I think that I know that only goes through Friday at 2 p.m., and we then unfortunately immediately have people park there from 2 p.m. until Monday morning at 7 a.m. when that ordinance goes back into effect for the 15-minute parking. So I believe it's on the agenda tonight, and I just wanted to support that we would love to, if it's possible, extend that parking limit from 7 to 2, 7 days a week, including Saturday and Sundays. So when the local North Kansas City families are coming in to grab breakfast at McLean's and for other local businesses, they have places to park right in front on Saturday and Sundays. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comments?
I think this is where I go. I had sent over some slides, Stephen.
We got slides queued up. Yep.
Very good. Okay, my name's Jerry Hickey. I'm the owner of Express Employment Professionals. I'm also the current president of the North Kansas City Business Council, and we have been trying to make sure that one of us gets here, one business owner in the community gets to these meetings to just tell you a little bit about what's going on, so you get to know the businesses that are in our community. You can go to the next. Oh, that's right. I got this here. Oh, I can control it. Okay, a little bit about us. We have been on the corner there. You probably have seen us since 2013. We used to be a couple doors down where there's a law firm in there now. But we started there in 2013. But we have been a part of this community now, effective today, for 12 years. Today is our 12-year anniversary in North Kansas City. And I just want to say thank you to all of the people who make the city of North Kansas City what it is. I mean, it has been an awesome experience being here. It is why, as my business has grown and we have looked at other locations that might make more sense depending on where job growth is, we have remained here. A little bit about us. What do we do? We help people find jobs, and we help companies find the people, the talent that they need. Our mission that we take very seriously is to enhance the lives of individuals and their families in our community through employment while serving as an indispensable partner to our business community. We feel like that's a pretty good place to be. We take our mission very seriously, even though you would think that finding opportunities for people would always be a pretty joyous task. You find out that there's a lot of people who are pretty resistant to taking advantage of opportunities, and that's a challenge that we face. But our vision is to be widely known and seen as the best staffing company recruiting company in Kansas City, to be synonymous with the word, the best. And we've worked very hard at it, and we try to control the things that we can control. But for being in North Kansas City, it would be, we would like for people to be able to participate in saying, hey, the best staffing company in Kansas City is right down the street. And you can feel comfortable if you know people who are looking for work, or you know companies that are looking for people, you can feel very confident that you can send them down to us and they're going to be in very good hands. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, damn it. I'm sorry. Okay, so we try to match our market as far as the jobs that are out there. So we have an office services division, light industrial, skilled trades, and professional. When you look around and you see what's in our market, light industrial, which would consist of distribution jobs, manufacturing jobs, that's the largest part of what we do because that's where the most jobs are. We fill the gaps as where they come in. The biggest need right now is in skilled trades. If you're a machinist, if you're a welder, if you're a mechanic, you're hard to find and your prices are going up. Tell my kid they can't outsource a plumber. You ought to consider it. And I think schools are doing a really good job, and some of the programs like NEBA and CAPS and some of the other Northland programs that we have for our students are doing a good job of trying to address these needs and moving kids into those lines of work. So I said we've been here since 2013. We grew really rapidly. And we eventually moved into the space in 2016 where Sash Shoes used to be when they moved out. And then we took over the area that was 1909 Swift. It used to be a vape shop or something like that. We moved in there in 2019 and have been there since. We've grown from 2 employees to 15, all here in North Kansas City. And we now have other locations out in Independence and in downtown Kansas City. To see maybe the impact that we have in our community. Since we have opened, we have paid over 19,000 individuals. So we have found over 19,000 individuals work, and we have worked with a total of 1,800 companies. That does not include 2025. I cut it off at 2024. So like I said, we do take our mission seriously of trying to be a partner with the business community and trying to find people, not just a job, but the right job, a job that's going to meet their skill set, a job that's going to meet their transportation requirements, a job that's going to meet the shift that works for them. If they have maybe some limitations due to backgrounds, we have employers that we can work with to try to find them. So I think our numbers are evident that we do a good job of that. And thank you for our time to tell you a little bit about our company. And we're very, very happy to be a part of North Kansas City. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Anybody have questions for Express Employment? Excellent. Thank you so much. Further public comments? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. George Schluter, 800 East 23rd Avenue.
Pull the mic down.
I want to thank you for your first town hall meeting, and I want to thank Councilman Bailey for being there as well. I'd encourage the other council people to come because you might learn what's on the citizens' mind.
Yvonne was there as well.
Lynn?
Yvonne was
there.
yeah,
I'm sorry, I
she
missed
was in the
you.
front row. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Further public comments? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Can I just do a quick mention? You know, I went back and forth with Mayor Smith about, you know, some of these we want to require resume, we want to see them filling in. Some of them had blanks. He filled in some of the gaps on a few of them. I think Brian Sandvik's application. I do know him, but I think for everybody on council, we try to look at those, make sure everybody's kind of matching up to the board they're going to serve, that we have the information attached. So there were just a few questions on that. I do know that some of these committees or commissions haven't met in years, so I get it. We've had to duplicate people. It does help that some of them came from Citizens Academy. So I was going to pull a few people off, but I think after, you know, some previous conversation, I'm comfortable with the candidates, and I would move to approve.
And before we get a second on that, to thank you for digging in, honestly, like digging through, finding applications that didn't populate correctly. With these applications, a lot of the people who are appointed to some of these boards, like the Board of Zoning Adjustment or Liquor Control, these are people who have some background with the city or who went through Citizens Academy and have a deeper understanding of what's going on. We're also going to do some work to stand up some pretty basic training to have folks who are on those boards have the opportunity to learn a little more about the responsibilities, because we have a handbook. I've sent out the link to the handbook with all nominations, said review that, but it's fairly bare bones. So having some opportunity to learn what could be expected of you when and if you're called. So I appreciate all the folks who have applied and accepted the nomination. So we got a first motion on the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right. Moving all the way to the regular items. Item 32.
Appointment of Kara Fitzgerald to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, term to expire June 3rd, 2030.
And to explain why this one is separate, Kara Fitzgerald is the wife of Connor Fitzgerald, who would have had to recuse himself, so we couldn't vote it on the consent agenda. Connor's not here tonight, so we're going to go ahead and vote it up or down. So I'd ask for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 33.
Discussion of downtown parking requests.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take this one. This is something, we've had a couple different requests, and we kind of bunched them under one item. The first request was, I believe it originated with Chapels to ask about a move to 3-hour public parking limit in the downtown area. At this point, I'm happy to entertain some council discussion, but further input from staff and knowing that we have a parking study coming in the near future, I think it may be a little early to jump right on moving that, especially given how broad a swath that would be and how many businesses it would impact. I'd like to see some more input from those other businesses before we make that kind of move. Any questions on the 3-hour proposal? Councilmember Saber?
I totally agree. I mean, instead of doing it helter-skelter, piece by piece, we need a comprehensive, clear, thought-out plan.
Councilmember Groen?
I would like more information from Chapels or other businesses that want to extend that as to what the use case for that is. Right now, I can't really think what an extra hour on the end of that will do, but I'm happy to be convinced otherwise. But I agree that we should wait on making any changes. I also have some concerns with extending the 15-minute parking to 7 days a week, because we don't have a parking control officer on staff Saturday and Sunday. And so that would end up with people calling our police officers to come and potentially write parking tickets and try to monitor that. So if we did extend that, I think we would want to increase the availability of a parking control officer. But I don't think that we should do that if we don't have that resource.
So for the 3-hour ask, the reason given, at least what I'm understanding, is that folks who come in to have lunch or want to be down there and have a meal, they would also like to encourage them to walk around town and see what else is there. But again, further study to understand how that might negatively impact other businesses who need the turnover in the parking. Any further comments on that? Okay, so the 15-minute piece, this is something as my office has been getting painted, I've been sort of officing out of McLean's, and I've watched as those 15-minute spaces during the week are turning over a lot. They're readily used, people popping in. And so on the weekends, when folks, as Molly mentioned, folks come in and park literally at 2 p.m. and will stay in those 4 spaces right in front. They'll park there and stay until Monday morning when the time starts again. And that's just not the intent of the spaces. They're for people to be able to pop in for not just McLean's, but for El Canelo, for NKC Nutrition, for other businesses in the area. And it's just very frustrating to see people come in and utilize those spaces entirely for the weekend. I get pictures, I have probably 5 or 6 pictures each weekend. Hey, there's that same person back. Typically, some folks that live in the Oxbow will use that for parking. So I understand the request, and these are some of the busiest days, the Saturdays and the Sundays. So any other comments on that? Yes.
I just had one other comment. On the weekends, there's not nearly as much business parking on Swift, so there's a lot more parking available on Swift Saturday and Sunday than there is available on Swift Monday through Friday. So I think that there's still plenty of opportunities to park even with those 4 spaces taken. But if you're seeing something different, then I'd be happy to hear about that. But as far as I know, there's tons of parking along Swift Saturday and Sunday. I drive up and down it and ride up and down it on my bike a lot.
Sure. As far as the enforcement piece, that's a fair point as well. Sometimes simply having a sign that says it's against the rules will stop people from breaking the rule. Sometimes you have to write them a ticket, and both sides of that are very relevant. I don't see us necessarily bringing extra hours onto parking enforcement. Chief Freeman, I don't know if you want to opine on that, whether we could enforce if the rule is changed or it's just a simple change of the rule.
Good evening. Enforcement would be a challenge in our current state. Like Councilmember McGrone said, our parking control officer is a part-time position. He works 25 hours a week. It's not always Monday through Friday. There's some differing hours, and we do it to try to mix it up just a little bit so people don't catch on to our patterns, right? as one person that we all know of has. And so the enforcement piece is difficult. I'm not saying we don't look for those things, but it's not our top priority to enforce parking regulations when should be doing other things. So we respond when there's a need. If there's a call for service, say, hey, this red car's been parked here for 12 hours straight, and then we would go address that then. Our parking control officer, when they're on duty, does a much better job of running through on his vehicle, catching license plates, and coming back over the allotted time, and then writing those tickets. So, yeah, difficult to enforce in our current state right now, I would say.
The other thing, and Anthony can clarify this, the change, if we were to implement this, could be handled by covering the time or the dates with a sticker. Is that correct?
In theory, yeah. We'd have to look at each sign just to make sure they're all about the same printing, but yeah.
Sure.
That is something that has been done in the past. Yeah.
So we could sticker over the Monday through Friday piece. So it's not like we have to print new signs or change a whole lot. Any other council thoughts or comments? Councilmember Alvarez.
Not to make extra work, but I would think that maybe if it was parked right in front of McLean's, if they saw a vehicle that was sitting there for like 24 hours, 48 hours, they could call. Maybe have somebody come by when they had time to check on it.
At this point, it's not against the law. Like, there's nothing,
Oh,
there's
there's
no
not a sign
mechanism.
there
No,
now?
so right
Okay.
now, from Friday afternoon through Monday morning, you could park
Oh, okay.
straight through, and they're
Okay.
not breaking law. It's just not what the intent of the spots are for.
All right. Disregard that.
No, you're fine.
I don't know, I guess I feel differently that maybe I do want to assign some limitations in front, knowing that it's likely the same offenders that are just sort of, we all know the parking issues that have existed around a particular, living space there, and I think it still can benefit the businesses here for, running in, picking things up, if you want to stop it. I can't recall if PAX is open on the weekend. But I know it's, I know I'm always rushing in there. I think everybody's always like, can you do it fast? She's like, please help me. So I don't know. I'm thinking of those businesses as well. And if someone's just simply parking in the most convenient spot so they can walk up to their apartment, I would like to think that we'd want to do something. Not that we're just strictly benefiting one business, but for the surrounding area. And yes, if they need a parking space to visit a friend or something, there are plenty of spaces beyond someone running in and out to pick up a cake or pick up goodies and go. So I guess I'm on the side of considering doing a 15-minute as an initial warning just to kind of see how that lands, because it's there, and then thinking about, to your point, sure, after 24 hours or something, same car is still there overnight. When you get a chance, go by kind of thing, but don't make it a super priority until we have some feedback.
So in Zona Rosa, they have signs like that you can only park there for 30 minutes. And I was always scared to park there because I thought I can't walk around. But the people at Hellsburg said that those signs are only for the people that live there. There's people that live upstairs. So those signs are for them, not for people that actually want to shop there and for longer than 30 minutes.
Interesting. I have no idea how you would know or enforce that somebody lived upstairs, but it's an interesting thing that they're doing. Yeah. I don't know about this. Any other thoughts or comments? Councilmember Saber.
Clearly, these different items that come up and exceptions and so forth reinforce that we need to get a careful study of what we're doing before we move forward.
Before changing anything with the 15-minute?
Yeah, it would make making changes or anything else.
Okay.
Because there are just too many pros and cons. And there are different people who will be affected. Some will be affected positively, some negatively even.
Okay. So trying to get a collection of thoughts. Are we, I don't feel like we're leaning any direction. Are we leaning?
What if there were, okay, I think there's like, how many are the 15-minute parking?
4.
4 total.
4 total.
And they're saying just extend those 4 total to
7
through
days.
the weekend,
Yep.
7 days a week. Because I was like, well, yeah, you can't put up another sign that says 2-hour parking limit for the weekends or
It
something.
does say 2-hour parking below. So it's 2 hours from 2 to 6, I believe.
Mhm.
And then up until 2 p.m., it's 15 minutes. So it's quick change. And it would just be continuing that same rule through the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, if it's 2 hour beyond the 15-minute after 2 o'clock.
It's 2 to 6. So there is a spot after 6 p.m. it becomes unlimited.
It's, okay. I thought you were saying, yeah. It's
Yep.
just 2 to 6 is the 2 hour. Gotcha. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm like, I don't know that I have to pay a consultant to say that people are parking there while living somewhere else,
Sure.
you know?
McGrone.
I like that I can have my mind changed. So I am in favor of just covering up the Monday through Friday. I think that would be fine. I mean, it's, I to the point that I think that Councilwoman Salinas pointed out, and also Mayor Smith, that sometimes just the threat of just the sign saying, don't do this, will keep people from doing it. And that was, you know, I think when we were first talking about adding those 15-minute spots originally, that was one of the things that I think I kind of pressed on was, even though we won't be able to enforce it all the time, good people will pay attention to the sign and will not take advantage of it. So I think, you know, if somebody sees somebody parking there for a really long time, yeah, call the non-emergency line and say, see if we can't get somebody out here. But other than that, I think most people are going to be respectful.
And it gives us a mechanism to enforce for the really egregious offenders. Councilmember Saber?
Well, I was just going to go back to Councilmember McGrone's earlier statement that as there are plenty of parking spaces on the weekend on Swift. And to have to walk maybe a quarter of a block, a half a block to get a delicious but high-calorie treat might be better for their health, frankly.
Councilmember Click?
I was just curious, if we were to change the parking hours, do you often get calls about parking over the weekend when the attendant isn't there? Like, would that affect in a huge way?
I would say rarely.
Okay.
I would say, and I don't want to generalize, but unfortunately, I feel like this issue's come up over one offender. And I'm very cautious about reacting to one offender. And we have ticketed this offender multiple times already. Because when our parking control officer is not there, we have a camera there. We can watch it via camera and tell when they move and when they don't move. If they're skirting maybe the parking control officer's not there on a Friday, well, maybe that's the day they choose to park there. Still in violation, but we just do it differently. Again, anecdotal, I don't know if it's the regular or the norm. Came down, enjoyed some delicious McLean's on a Saturday morning, pulled right up to the very first spot, 7 a.m., no problem. So I don't necessarily want to overreact to a non-problem.
I mean, I agree that I think most people will listen to the sign. And if it's not already an issue and isn't going to cause a major issue for the department.
Okay, so can I take a poll of
Wait.
where we're at?
I'm not sure where you stand on this when you said,
Oh, sorry. I think switching, like changing the hours so that people can park for, or sorry, people can't park for a long time on the weekend.
So adding the
Sounds good.
weekends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
No, my bad.
Agree. That's why I was going
That's
to
okay.
poll. Okay. How do we want to do, like, for the change, against the change?
This would require a change, an ordinance.
Correct, yeah.
So we would
That
come
they would
back
bring
if
back.
directed.
Do we want to
Come back.
direct staff to bring back the ordinance?
I personally feel like directing staff to bring back the ordinance, hear me out, Councilmember Saber. Because my thought is, we then pay a company that says, yeah, guys, we looked at it and we recommend that you probably open up to Saturday, Sunday. And here's the charge for that. When we can come in with, we're going to extend it through Saturday, Sunday, see what happens. We actually have data to draw from, no money really spent. Obviously, we're not trying to bring in the brigade of police officers for a vehicle, but we're trying to get a sense and feel of if we can be neighborly, if we can just simply put up a deterrent that just says, hey, we'd rather you not park here overnight. I'm glad you found the sneaky spot, but now we found you. Tag, you're it. Go park down the street. Maybe it'll be problem solved. I'd be willing to risk like adding a Saturday, Sunday, and just put that out there so we have some comparative data.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Clay.
Sorry, can I just clarify? Are we only talking about the spaces in front of McLean's?
The
Did
four-
we moved on from the chapel's
3 hour
The
spaces?
3-hour space will be tabled for
Great,
future.
just confirming.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay. So who is generally in favor of making the change to 7 days?
Don't feel pressured.
Opposed?
But feel pressured.
Noted. Okay, so directing staff to bring back an ordinance.
We'll do so.
Awesome. Thank
Still
you
have a
all.
vote.
Thank you for coming out to speak. Okay, moving on to item 34.
Discussion of Armor Road redevelopment area, 1 North history and opportunity presentation. Discussion and next steps.
Who's running this presentation? All right, kick it to Kim.
I am. Who is excited? 41 slides.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't need a clicker, girl.
Molly.
That'll work. I like a good challenge. Okay. So I promise this was included in your packet. That way we don't have to go deep into all the slides, but I would like to kind of give a little bit of history on the 1 North area before we kind of start talking about its future. So we are going back to 1989. I know several of you are sad that I'm not going back to the Revolutionary War. That's another slide deck. It was 36 years ago, though. This is actually pretty pivotal because this is when arsenic was discovered in the area. So the site history is this was historically a pretty industrial part of town. You can kind of see that by this slide here. There used to be a small retention pond in the southern area, but a lot of this was pretty heavily industrial. Railroads, Sutherland's was in the area. There were a few restaurants that are still located north of this area, and there is residential a quarter mile from the area. So Hardee's actually wanted to put a restaurant in this area, and they did a phase 1 environmental, and that is when they discovered the arsenic. So from then on, they referred it to the city, who then referred it to Missouri Department of Natural Resources, who then referred it to the EPA. Again, this kind of spanned about a 10-year history. It is not common for us to find this type of concentration in an area of town, hence why we kind of went up the chain of people who really specialized in this area. So arsenic is actually a naturally occurring. It happens to be part of the just natural decay process organically. This particular area, though, was a little bit more on the man-made side. The building that originally began kind of the industrial fabrication of arsenic, which it turned out to be, was actually herbicide. It began in 1920s in this area, and it was actually considered a major employer of the area. Chemicals included arsenic around other components, and they were actually loaded onto rail cars, and those rail cars were used to treat railroad areas to keep the weeds down. So it was transitioned into a Superfund site. There is a whole lot of acronyms that I will gloss over. I've been asked to keep this under a 6-hour sermon, so I am attempting to do so. But eventually the EPA did make this particular area a Superfund site. And really that was a specialized program with 4 separate goals, and that's to protect human health, make responsible parties pay for the cleanup, and involve the communities in the Superfund process, as its end goal really is to take that land and put it back into productive use. So again, we began, this city kind of had a tremendous amount of foresight in not seeing this discovery as something awful and tragic and would end us, more of the beginning of what could we re-envision this particular area to become? Once it is abated, once we get our arms around restoring the land back to usability, what could we do with this area? So actually the city began acquiring property in the area. And it actually was officially recognized as a redevelopment area in both the city's master plan and strategic plan. So this is actually the area that was considered part of the Superfund site. It was a former industrial area. It's actually just this particular area. They did, as they kind of started digging down, understand that Sutherland's was part of the contamination site. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen the photos of the remediation. So the EPA actually went into conversations with the property owner, which was a company called Rio Tinto. They entered into an agreement to help fund the cleanup efforts. But this is the mixing bin, and actually there were several of us on staff that when the EPA came, because they have to do public meetings to talk about the cleanup components, we actually met the gentleman who's in this white uniform right here that pulled this mixing bin out. He still lives in the area, and he talked kind of to us about the cleanup efforts. This is the mixing bin. So when they actually mixed the herbicide, it was underground. So as this particular mixing bin aged, it just started to deteriorate, which is how the arsenic got into the ground. So it is pretty amazing when you look at the scale of this particular project. I mean, those are people inside that hole. They dug all the way down to the bedrock. And from what the gentleman told us, you could actually see the arsenic. You can kind of see it in this, see how the dirt is discolored in the photo to the left versus the rich dirt to the left of it, that lighter brown, that was the contaminated dirt. So you could actually visually see the contamination. And again, just to give some scope and scale, they dug all the way down to bedrock because that's as far down as they could go. They removed all of that dirt and they replaced it with fresh topsoil. So during this time, while the remediation was going on, the city went through several visioning processes, and this was one of them. So because North Kansas City is home to high-speed internet, really one of the early thoughts was a high-tech hub center of startup businesses that would leverage the city's investment in telecom. So this is kind of, it was around the same time period as many other office-style parks were done. It was very in vogue, considered cutting edge. And again, this was 19 years ago. So the city issued an RFQ for a development partner. The city purchased the ADM mill. We did establish blight in the area. And again, we were acquiring land to try to get enough land for a large-scale redevelopment project. We did enter into a pre-development with LADCO, which was one of the development partners that the city had selected. Ultimately, it did not work out, and the city did, during that time, demolish the ADM mill. We issued a second RFP for a developer. The city did not like the responses that it had received, so it rejected all of them. They began working on a different framework while they were kind of on a parallel track, working with the EPA on a feasibility study and remediation plan, which is kind of a long-term stewardship plan. The city actually negotiated, aside from any developers' assistance, it was city staff that brought Marodi's Jewelry into North Kansas City. They had originally seen another site that they were interested in, but then came back for one in the redevelopment area because they felt like it best met their needs. And at the time, it was considered the first jewel in the redevelopment area. This is kind of a framework that about 10 years ago the city adopted. It was really meant to be more of a flexible plan as opposed to a rigid, we have one vision. And the hope was to try to find another development plan. So this right here actually had three different, it had a high density, low density, and kind of an in-between density plan. It had some land use. It kind of really envisioned what type of infrastructure the city would need to invest in for a full-scale redevelopment project. The city did adopt this, but some of the findings was we needed a critical mass of activity. We needed a lot of people doing a lot of things in that space. Mixed-use development, and this is kind of a critical point, the greater return on investment. So one of the components of this framework was to reinvest North Kansas City for a diversity of income strategies. At the time, they were really considering what would happen if the casino were to no longer be in this community. And they really wanted to start pursuing a diversity of revenue threads, specifically sales tax, really getting people to come and visit North Kansas City, stay with us, play with us, and to spend their money within this town. And they saw that as a long-term strategy for financial independence. So they did adopt that particular framework. It did become an official Superfund site. Again, the city did purchase that area after it was cleaned up. And we began to prepare infrastructure plans. So the city did take on the task of putting in new water, sewer, all of the things, the street, which became Spine Road. Really what the city wanted to do was invest in that particular property to create a stage for private development. We did declare declarations, covenants, conditions, as you guys may have heard, those are CCRs. That was to ensure that there was a level of excellence on the developments that would be in that area. And the city began to kind of clear the site. In 2016 is when the city entered into a development agreement with North Kansas City Destination Developers, LLC. And the city actually began constructing Taney, Mill, Vernon, Railroad Street, and along with the Spine Road. Some of what the city had hoped to do is, as those land parcels transacted, was to recoup the city's investment in the road, specifically Spine Road. Construction again, so Marodi's is not part of the one development area, but it sort of is. It's just not in the financial redevelopment plans. More soil response, so again, this was part of the larger overall plan. This is in addition to what was done in 06 and 07. Again, it's pretty heroic efforts done on behalf of this area. I did want to include these just to show the scope and scale. This is pretty remarkable. They dug, once again, down to bedrock. And there is a long-term stewardship plan, a partnership with the EPA and the city that will last nothing short of generations upon generations upon generations. So the city adopted a financing plan for the area. We adopted the Armour Road redevelopment area tax increment financing plan. The city actually formed the IDA. It doesn't only serve the One North TIF district. It was a mechanism required for issuing debt. We also established the NKC DDC ID, which is the Community Improvement District, and that was formed for the long-term stewardship of the area. The financial plan, I don't want to belabor you, this is hundreds of pages, should you ever care to read it. But really, these were the goals: to reduce the blight and to address the environmental issues, to enhance the tax base, again, diversify and strengthen and encourage private investment with shopping, lodging, and entertainment, increase employment, living, and entertainment opportunities, and to attract visitors, which is why the LLC partner named themselves Destination Developers. There were three main components in the original financing plan, and that was the hotel with a conference center, a grocery store, and multifamily. The TIF plan includes 100% property tax redirection, up to 50% sales tax redirection, 23 years of redirection, and those increments can be bonded or mortgaged. The Community Improvement District features a 1-cent sales tax. It has a separate authoritative board, and those funds can be used for infrastructure services activities. The Chapter 100 is both got a sales tax and a property tax. Think of this as the toolkit for a developer to be able to come in and kind of negotiate what kind of tax incentive deal they would like to make for that particular parcel. The hotel motel tax redirection, so right now the Aloft and Element, the city receipts none of the money from the hotel motel tax. That was all bonded and redirected. There is a, did you have a question? Sorry, I saw movement. You guys are all asleep on me. Within the plan, it states that there could be a TDD or a transportation district sales tax. It has never been activated. And I think that this particular part of the financing plan, the city would probably have to have some real thought if they ever wanted to implement this in here, because the city, as you guys know, we are in discussions with the streetcar authority, who also would be seeking a TDD. It's just something that I would maybe say if the city, if we had a developer ask for this, I think that we would really have to have some mindful conversations. In 2018, construction on the medical office building began, and we actually held a ribbon cutting for Diamond Parkway in the region's first protected two-way cycle track. Construction began pretty much in earnest in 2019. Burger King, Old Chicago, Element and Aloft, Backyard Apartments, and two of those facilities were finished in 19 as well. Construction began on Starbucks and completion on several of the other elements. I think we all understand kind of what happened in 2020 and 2021. COVID-19 kind of severely impacted worldwide development, specifically on tourism or entertainment style businesses. Grocery store continued to be a large desire for the North Kansas City community. The TIF plan was amended to allow additional multifamily units in the support of a grocery store, and the agreement was amended to require the grocery store by the end of 2023. The Aura Apartments had begun construction, but there was no grocery store by the end of 2023, and the city did enter into separation with our master developer. So let's talk about the future. Let's talk about where we are and where we're going. I would like to note that the city has made a pretty good size investment in this particular area. I did want to break down, because as you deliberate our steps forward, we kind of, again, we need to talk about where we're coming from and how much the city has invested in this particular area. So the city has invested over $38 million over the course of those many, many years since 1989. We are anticipated getting some of those revenues back, again, to reimburse the city's investment in the Spine Road. And as you know, the city does have bond proceeds for a grocery store at $2.5 million and Lot 2 sale escrow at $2.7. So those are reflected in that $7 million reimbursement-ish to the city. So this is kind of where the development stands today. So approximately, and this is kind of SHU's best practice number, we have approximately anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 people who call the One North redevelopment area home. All of the projects are 100% property tax abated with a redirection for the next 23 years, and 50% of that sales tax is also redirected. All the hotel and motel revenues are redirected. So, and again, I bring this up for long-term fiscal understanding. So 4 current developments produce sales tax within this particular area. And that would be the Burger King, Starbucks, Old Chicago, and Diamond Center Conference Center. So those are really the areas, the only areas that the city receives any revenue from this particular area, and will receive revenue from this particular area for the future, for several years moving forward. So our redevelopment opportunities are these parcels here. They are city-owned, and again, some of your conversation tonight is what would the city envision putting there? We have one small area 7. That area, that particular parcel is about 1.1 acres. It does have some access and egress issues. It's probably one of the more challenging areas to develop something, and that's just because it's kind of small and it's in kind of an awkward position. Area 3 has 6.84 acres in it, and then area 4 and 6 are separated but could be reunited. If they were reunited, it's 5.75. Yes?
What about the areas southwest of the box that says Area 3 and the northeast of
Absolutely.
Area 6?
So you are probably talking about, I think, well, okay, this area here?
Yep.
And this area here? Those act as stormwater basins. So in this area, staff would not advise, really, and my public works director is furiously shaking no. Those really serve that entire development from a stormwater perspective. And in fact, those areas are probably going to remain within the city's ownership long-term. So kind of some consideration. Oh, did you have a question? Yes.
Area 7, has MoDOT expressed any interest in that area as part of their potential redevelopment by 2935?
So right now they are undergoing their I-2935. I believe they're in the environmental phase. So we don't have a great understanding at this moment of what if they were to add lanes to that area, which way those lanes would go and what impact it would have to that development. I said, I have not seen renderings of what the proposal would be. Have you, Shu? No.
Okay, thank you.
So some considerations as you begin your conversations tonight. I did mention that the city has a TIF plan. So the way that that Missouri authorizes a tax increment financing plan is kind of two-step process. You adopt a plan, and when the second that the city council adopts the plan, a stopwatch begins. You must activate the parcels within 10 years of the plan being adopted, or you forfeit your ability to activate them. You have to restart the process again. So because the city adopted that plan on October 3rd, 2017, that stop clock is going right now. There are definitely some things from the staff's perspective that we would like to bring forward for conversation with the governing body on modernizing the particular plan. Just to kind of give you some perspective, almost no one at this table was on staff except for these wonderful gentlemen here. And Mr. Barzee, when that particular TIF plan was presented, and I do feel like the city is in a different position now. There are definitely some things that I think from the staff level we would love for the city council to consider moving forward for the TIF plan to be a little bit more beneficial to the city. We do have $2.5 million kind of set aside to help bring a grocery store into One North. And again, one of the thoughts from a grocery store is that they have considerable sales tax generation. There is a long-term, we kind of mentioned, one of the considerations is going to be that long-term remedial action plan that is in place over many parcels within One North. This prohibits several future land uses in the area, meaning that there's a reason why you're not seeing single family in this area. It's prohibited by law, and that has to do with that long-term stewardship in that area. It does prohibit several different items of development land use-wise. Kind of our recommendations, we've been kind of asked, so what should we be considering? We would issue an RFP for all remaining parcels and be as broad as possible. We would really kind of be mindful of pigeonholing development. We have found much success in being as broad and open to any idea and creativity as the private sector feels that they could execute and, more importantly, fund. Because again, a lot of the challenge that we have found in the past is the funding mechanism, meaning can they get the equity for the project, can they get the debt for the project, and can they recoup that investment? So being as broad as possible and seeing how creative the private sector may be for that area, I think would be it would behoove the city to not say no to something you didn't even know was possible. We would prioritize and encourage sales tax. Again, the city will not be receiving any revenue from this particular area except through sales tax generation. The city has really kind of invested pretty heavily in this area, and it'd be about the only way we can recoup our investment and really meet one of the goals, which was fiscal diversity. Yes?
The 100% property tax redirection, that's until the TIF plan sunsets, correct? Or is that in perpetuity?
So the TIF plan agreements that are already in place are kind of, the deal is done. Moving forward, the city would be able to negotiate. So you think of that as a framework or a box, right? It's tools given to the city for negotiation processes. Just like any other economic development incentive, it's a negotiation. So, but that is the box, the predetermined box of availability to you. Yes?
Yeah, Councilmember
Just
Schaefer.
to remind people who might be listening or here now, that $38 million figure was in value of those dollars at the time they were expended. So we're really talking about an investment that the city has made of the public's money of $50 million at this point. So we really have to be careful about what we go forward with in a responsible, very responsible manner. I hope so.
Councilmember McGrone?
$50 million is a lot of money.
Maybe you've already clarified this, but I didn't quite understand really the answer that you gave to Mayor Smith's question. If we've got a stopwatch that ends effectively on October 3rd, 2027, does anything happen with TIF at that moment? Or like what exactly what happens on that date?
Sure. So right now, and not every parcel in this area has a TIF activation on it. So actually the Backyard Apartments utilizes Chapter 100 as opposed to TIF. It's really, they effectively do very similar items, but one of them means you don't pay property taxes at all. Tax increment financing means you pay the TIF, you pay as if you receive a property tax bill, and that bill is probably been obligated to debt, very similarly to a mortgage. So they collect that money, and that money to go pays off the debt. Both of them can be sold, both of them can be bonded. It really depends on how that person's capital stack and what business decisions.
Right, I understand that, but what happens on October 3rd, 2027?
The city loses the ability to activate the tax increment financing.
So with Northgate's the example, right?
Right.
We had to activate on blank parcels, which is kind of, it's not the worst thing that's ever happened, but it isn't ideal because you're not gaining anything in tax revenue and pilot payments. So if we hit a brick wall and don't get anything that we are willing to move forward with on October 2nd, 2027, we would likely activate the remaining parcels in the TIF for future development. For example, 23rd and Swift Apartments, we activated that 2 or 3 years ahead of those being completed and actually starting to collect the revenue. So it's sort of a backstop that says, like, after that point, we get the next 10 years to collect, or until the end of the TIF to collect. And so as the clock is ticking, we're just not getting revenue off those blank parcels.
It's one of the things to consider is you wouldn't be able to leverage the funding possibility to the greatest potential that that particular parcel has, which means that you wouldn't be able to borrow as much and pay down as much debt because you wouldn't have as much of the pot open, as it were. And again, the city actually had to do that particular thing with Northgate Village. And in fact, they activated numbers of parcels with no development agreement at all, in sight at least. And that was because they were at that tail end of either you activate or you lose the ability to do so. Continue to focus on the goals of the financing plan, new retail and entertainment spaces, and to attract visitors to support the businesses that are already there, namely the Aloft and the Element. They would love some entertainment. They would love that area to be built out. The more people that are coming into that area, they will directly benefit, including all the residents that are currently there. Just like anything else, it needs to be fully built out to be that vibrant redevelopment that the city had hoped it would become. Additional recommendations would be to utilize the escrow funds to help attract a grocery store, create a task force of city council members to review the submitted RFPs and make recommendation to the greater council. Again, one of those thought processes would be to be more nimble and fast. Time is kind of the essence with this particular development. Another thing would be to recoup the city's investment through land transactions. And really, one of the big goals would be to have development agreements in place by March of 2026. So, and with that, happy to answer any questions the city council may have.
All right, thank you, Kim, for that presentation. All those watching at home, be very grateful we have somebody who can put a presentation together like that, and it gives us the arc of history on this and why it's important we get this right. A lot of what we're looking at over there has been frustrating, and we're looking to move forward with some really interesting and unique things. The point you put up there about keeping it open, that's another lesson learned from the Northgate TIF is the city at the time put a lot of bounds on what could go on that frontage to Burlington, which now is becoming Bloom NKC, and nothing got proposed. So if you bound it too tightly, you won't get proposals. If you open it up, you can get proposals and then not do them. So it's better to find out what's out there, in my opinion. So what questions or comments do we have as a council? Okay, direction to staff, putting together this RFP, streamlining it and getting it out there as ready as we can. I know there are a number of developers ready to move on this kind of stuff. We've all heard now that the litigation is settled, there are people starting to get really excited about what could be there. So taking the time to get this out there, put it in front of them, and then start collecting ideas. Do we need to do some nominations for task force for review, or do we want to hold off until we've actually seen the RFP?
So one of my questions is a process question. Sorry, Mike.
Sure.
We had talked about, does the city council want to see this RFP before we issue it?
If the general idea is that we're wide open, does anyone have specific limitations that they would like to put on this? My only thought is not only housing. If it's only housing, I don't see us entertaining that given the reasons you outlined, because we want the sales tax generation. But things with housing plus, retail with housing above it, those sorts of things could be. But if it's only housing, I would put that boundary on it.
When you say only, you mean on a given site. So If the
Correct.
first floor was some fantastic
Yeah.
retail, they could put,
They could put housing above that, sure.
Got it.
But we need the sales tax. And
I
it's
just
like,
wanted to make sure I understood what.
right. Because we have backyard apartments, we have Aura apartments, those are
Agreed.
those are only
Understood.
housing. And I don't know that we want more of that, given the Chapter 100 and the TIF redirections. Councilmember Clark.
Probably something that's not detrimental to the soil that we just mitigated. Let's not approve any more arsenic. I just think back to how many people they could have paid to pull weeds against the cost of all of this.
Fair. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Mike?
So, I mean, the thought being that it's got to have some kind of mechanism for sales tax generation on each parcel. But it, you know, someone might say
Yeah, vending
office
machine in the
buildings.
lobby.
Do we want to eliminate office buildings? You know.
Yeah, I mean.
Right, I mean.
I don't
make
know
it
that we
stick
exclude it
with the-
necessarily because of what else could be there. The only real concern I have is like housing only options.
But, right, in one case where there's retail on the bottom and maybe housing above, it could be retail on the bottom and offices above, or something, but it's got to have that tax generating aspect to it. We're just, thinking through.
Okay.
But the big thing is, if there's anything the council doesn't want to see in there, that's.
Like fast tracking, it makes sense. Does anyone have, Councilmember Alvarez?
So basically, we're looking for more like retail, entertainment, something along those lines that generate revenue, correct? Is that what we're, okay.
Generally speaking. But leaving it open to stuff that we haven't thought of. Yeah, who knows what could be proposed? Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Any other thoughts, or Councilmember Bailey?
Do we have any restrictions on drive-throughs?
That is on the CCR, yes. So there are several things that are with the CCR. Drive-throughs is one of them.
Do we want staff to put this together and push it out, given what the constraints we've talked about, or do we want to have staff put it together, bring it back to us to bless, and then put it out? Just move forward. Okay. All for move forward. Okay. Get it together, get it out there. Do we need the task force now, or what would you like to see on that?
I don't think you need it immediately. One of the tasks that we're going to do is kind of go back and build out a timeline. Again, we didn't do that before today because we didn't know what the council's direction and thoughts would be. But building out a timeline so we can share that timeline of we've asked for the RFPs to be back XYZ and we'd like the task force, members chosen by before then.
Sure. Okay. So all of you sitting out there in the audience, if you have ideas, get them ready, get them written up, because this RFP is coming out hot. Any further questions or comments on this one? Councilmember Clark?
Yeah, I know we don't want to stifle the opportunities, but I think just maybe listing, I think you've mentioned it before on RFPs where you say preferential is kind of a list here. We'd like to see these items. Maybe you have your own stormwater plan. Maybe you've got, a green roof initiative, something where there may be more opportunities that we can extend to those that are solving some issues for us up front.
We will be probably directing them to the city's economic development incentive plan because it does outline, I don't know if you recall, but last year we kind of talked through there and we inserted those priorities.
Right. Perfect.
Very good. Okay, do we have the direction we need? Very good. Thank you again for the very thorough presentation. Moving on to item 35.
Approving accounts due and payable by the city through May 30th, 2025. Bill number 7920, ordinance number 9717.
First reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Everybody awake?
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through May 30th, 2025.
I move that bill number 7920 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9717.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through May 30th, 2025.
All right, item 36, staff comments.
All right, tonight, I know Chief Freeman has a comment, and Director Sands, and then I'm going to follow up with something after that.
And lead off like Jack Caglione is getting ready to come up for the Royals.
Let's go.
No, I just want to make a quick comment tonight. Our support, our appreciation of your support of the contract that was approved for the police officers and the sergeants bargaining units today. Really going to help us, we hope, stay competitive in the market for top talent and keep the top talent that we have. Because we've got some great people that work in this department. We don't want to lose them. So we appreciate your support on the contract tonight, and overall, just your support in general of the police department. So thank you.
Just a quick note on solid waste collection. So it's always hard when we have trash day and a weather day on the same day. So GFL had to get called off today because of the tornado sirens. So they are back in town. They were collecting us up to 6 o'clock. I was aware, but if your trash was missed, please leave it out. We send out Facebook notices, social media, Textcaster, just kind of putting that message out there. But again, they will be back around tomorrow if anything was missed. So please just give us a call and let us know if you notice that.
All right, last thing, as I mentioned, we're going through the budget process right now, but Chief Williams brought up, there's a grant, it's called the SAFER grant. It's helps with funding for firefighters over a 3-year period. The first 2 years are a 75% grant. The third year is 35%. One of his big focuses through this budgeting process has been overtime. So we want to tackle it this way. The thought being having the extra firefighter per shift eliminates that calling someone in, having that extra body. Now, it's not awarded until August, September, but we have to apply for it this month. So we just wanted to kind of get a head nod to go ahead and, if we can apply for it, we'll show it in the budget, but if we don't get it, we're not doing it. But we just, before we go and apply for something and say, surprise, we just want to get a head nod on that.
Sound good?
See if we're going to get yelled at if we do. So
yeah, go get that grant.
All right. And
thank you.
And as always, even if we get awarded the grant, it still takes your approval to accept it. So, thanks.
All right. Any further staff comments? Everybody said their piece. Beautiful. All right. Let's go to council member comments, starting with Councilmember Clark.
I'm not ready. I was going to try to list everyone's name, and then it just got to be a mouthful. I'm like, Andy, Cynthia, Amanda, everybody that filled out a form to become a part of this, an active member in our community as far as boards and commissions. Thank you so much. It's huge, it's helpful, and we welcome you. So thank you so much for that. Happy Pride Month. I welcome you to open your hearts and minds to kindness this month and always. To every queer identifying human, you are loved and valued, and I am so glad you're here. You're allowed to have your opinions, but please keep your messages of hate to yourself. I just want to encourage everybody just to try to let things go and walk up and get to know another human being that you feel like you may not have the same values as. You might surprise yourself if you had the conversation. Molly, Jerry, thanks for coming by to share your thoughts. We always appreciate the feedback. And what else do I have in here? Oh, yes, of course, Arts in the Park, June 13th and 14th. And the basketball court is on its way, folks. Just be patient. And River Forest Park is looking smashing. It's so good, guys. I love the feedback. Thank you, Yvonne, for leading that. Maybe I'm stealing your thunder, so I'll just be quiet. But great feedback. She's like, Amy, she's kicking me. But I'm still so pumped, and a lot of progress has been made at River Forest Park. And Kim, thank you so much for your freaky, thorough presentation. That was terrifying and informative. I love thinking about all the arsenic. There were just twisted decisions made in the past, and let us all use this as a reminder to pay attention to the impact of our decisions. When we make these decisions, how they can impact our community, our soil, the very water we drink, the things we need at a basic level to survive. So, thanks.
Councilmember Salinas.
So I just wanted to, everything Amy said, of course, but also I wanted to add, if we can all just agree to be responsible pet owners, whether we have a dog, cat, turtle, squirrel, I don't care. If we could just all be responsible for our pets and respect our neighbors and their property, and maybe we should start an ad hoc committee about that. So,
hey,
that's
find me some people.
Yeah, I will.
Perfect. I love that. Councilmember Click.
A couple, or our last meeting, we got that fun letter from the Department of Transportation, and I've just been thinking about it a bunch this month, and just want to remind people to reach out to our state representatives, federal representatives. I know it feels like a phone call might not make much of a difference, but when enough people call, it definitely does. And even if you think they're doing a great job, let them know that too when people are doing good, because that's nice to hear. Excited for all these new people on the committees participating. I'm excited to get started. That's it. Thanks.
Councilmember Saper.
There will be no rain in the forecast.
Microphone.
There will be no rain in the forecast and a high in the low 80s this Saturday for the Pride Parade. Please come out. We will be assembling no later than about 10:30. We will be near the 4120 Pennsylvania Avenue for the assembly point for our entry into the Pride Parade. Please come out.
Councilmember Bailey.
Once again, I want to reiterate Amy's comments. Thank you to all the members who joined boards, put in the application, took the time to do that, and are willing to take the time for up to 5 years on some of those boards. So thank you very much. I've seen a couple of people out in the audience today that you are a part of the city. You are helping us. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the people who came out and did public comments. As always, very helpful and useful for us. I personally am super excited for requests for proposals, so very interested in seeing what all the people can come up with, because it's probably stuff that we may not have thought about before. So bring those wacky and wild ideas. As long as you can make money, we can make money. Everybody gets to make North Kansas City better together. And then I know at least this weekend I'm going to try to go to one of the block parties. So I highly hope anybody else out there who's on the fence jumps off and goes ahead and signs up for a block party. So please, we want more of these. They help build community. They're great events.
Dr. McGrone.
I'll never get
Never
used to
gets
that,
old.
Ever. No, it never gets old. I just, everything everyone else has already said, I agree with boards and commissions. It was the reason why I got involved in local North Kansas City government in the first place, was being appointed to a board. And I encourage anybody, if you have any curiosity at all, any interest in feeling connected in a deeper way to the place that you live, please apply to be on a board or commission, or do what everyone in this room has done and just come and come to a city council meeting, or just reach out and talk to anybody who you know that's involved. It's what makes our town the absolute best place in Kansas City to live. So that we all have a way to be involved and it's easy, and it's it's as intensive as you want it to be. And so, choose your own adventure. I'm going to be walking with Tony and the rest of the EIC at the Pride Parade this Saturday. Please come out if you are so inclined. It's going to be a beautiful day. And happy Pride to everyone. That's all I got.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah. I think pretty much all of it's been said already, but I do want to thank you again, Kim, for the presentation of the history, finding how we got to the One North and the development that we have there now. Also, comment on the town hall meeting that you had. I believe there is a video if we were unable to attend the actual meeting. And I guess, actually, I just have one more thing. For Ward 3, for June, we still have the Yard of the Month that we're doing for the summer, so we have a new Yard of the Month for June, and it actually ends up being some people that just moved into the neighborhood recently, so they were pretty excited. So we took their picture, and it's out there if you want to see it. So, and that's it.
All right, that brings it around to me. Happy Pride, y'all. Come out on Saturday and get there early. I've learned that we're not allowed to hand out or throw out swag along the route, so if you want to be there and get some swag, show up before the parade kicks off. You'll get all the fun stuff. Thank you to everyone who applied for boards and commissions. Lots and lots of interest in parks, planning, and library. Some very highly qualified folks that are on those committees. And if you didn't get a spot on any of these, your apps will stay on file, so you will be in future consideration. Also, we have a lot of ad hoc committees that are standing up now. We've got new resident welcome, we've got composting, we've got the Citizen Health Committee, and anything you dream up. We've got the Responsible Pet Committee. I've had someone reach out and say, what about somebody who looks out for older individuals who live alone? Reach out and call and talk to them. So if any of these things pique your interest, reach out, mayor@nkc.org, and I'll point you in the right direction. We're also setting up sort of a go-by or a rubric for these committees so that if you've never started a committee, you've never been part of one, this is kind of the basics of how it works. You make it your own, and you bring us some great ideas. North Town Hall this past Thursday, well attended, a lot of great discussion. It went for almost an hour and a half talking on all sorts of things going on in North Kansas City. It was a great time. There will definitely be more of those, more opportunities if you missed the first one. And as Linda mentioned, there's a video floating around out there. I'm going to try to get it over to staff so we can get it posted to the city's official YouTube channel. It's just sitting out on mine right now, but you can watch that. Ask for a link, and I'll send it over to you. Block parties, we had one this past Saturday. Thanks to Tom Hoppy for heading that up. The burgers were delightful. Again, if you want to set up a block party, we have $400 for you to shut off a street and party with your friends. Get those apps in. And then the last piece is state legislature special session is ongoing this week. We will be monitoring the outcome of that, and that also, of course, relates to the North Kansas City Royals proposals. All of the stadium funding stuff is on the table in this meeting. We'll see where it goes. That's the latest update I have. And so that will be all from me. Moving on to 39.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date pursuant to revised statute section 610.02112 contractual matters and 610.0212 real estate matters.
So move.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
See?
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
At this time, the live stream and Channel 2 will shut off. There will be no further votes or business taken this evening.